Britain's overseas trade begins essentially in the medieval period around the North Sea into the Baltic and through the Mediterranean. But by the 16th century, the Elizabethan period, you have sort of merchant adventurers who are moving out into the Atlantic, into the Caribbean and North America. And then they're also beginning their activities into the Indian Ocean, trading with India and with the Far East as well. So this period is quite important in setting up a structure which can then be developed in a more formal sense throughout the 18th century. It starts off obviously small scale with individuals, but by the time you get to the beginning of the 18th century, you have these large companies which are already in place and trade is becoming much more formalised. So you now have hundreds of ships going out annually trading with not only in the Atlantic but round into the Indian Ocean as well. It becomes important, say by the middle of the 18th century, to have an understanding of English. Britain is now the dominant industrial power and British trade dominates the world. So English becomes an important vehicle for the advancement of that trade. The connection with India gives some particularly good examples, and it shows the diversity of the British connection with the subcontinent. So words like curry, obviously, but then jodhpurs and shampoo and bungalow all come from the subcontinent and just show the sort of range of activities that Britain was involved in. The British Empire fluctuates over time. The loss of the American colonies in the 18th century caused problems, obviously. But the empire continues to grow throughout the 19th century and actually reaches its physical peak just immediately after the First World War. And at that time, it essentially encompasses about 1/4 of the globe and certainly has just over 1/4 of the world's population. The money that's coming back from overseas trade, say during the 18th century, is actually quite considerable, and it's concentrated in a few major companies and a few very important individuals. They come back and they will improve their estates in Britain and then begin to invest the capital across the range of industrial activity that's taking place at the time. So by the 19th century, foreign trade is actually very important for key sectors of the British economy. Something like cotton relies heavily on the trade to India. And for the City of London, with its financial markets, the overseas investments prove very important indeed. And Britain quickly becomes the dominant financial market and is investing in the United States, Europe, and throughout the empire.